Hey there, welcome to this video. My name is Brendan. Today we're going to be talking about how often to train using functional patterns. This question comes up a lot in my community, and it comes up a lot because I work with people who are either too sedentary or I work with people who are too active. And I like to try and help people come to the middle point of that. And the way I do that is focusing on some of this and some of the stuff I've learned over the years of losing 10 stone, changing my life, getting really into fitness and becoming addicted to fitness, and then kind of bringing it back around to a bit more of a balance. So I'm going to talk about why I resonate with what functional patterns say and why I feel like it's a really good tool for you to put into your week. A lot of what people struggle with when it comes to change is actually the organization of change. So if you're pretty sedentary and you carry on as you are, you tend to fall into a bit of a habit and a bit of a routine there. And equally, if you're a gym goer, really active, but you keep getting injured and you keep getting hurt and all these things keep going on, that can be a troublesome time as well because you're really organized, but maybe you're too strung out and too over anxious. So the way to kind of understand where you're at, and this is a good test, is to, if you're an active person and you keep getting injured and you're in pain, have a look at what happens if you don't do anything. Like if you don't train, if you don't go to the gym, if you don't work around your injuries, what happens if you just took like 2 days, 3 days off? If that makes you anxious and makes you feel like really uncomfortable, then you probably got too much of an addiction or too much of a leaning on fitness. Equally, if you're sedentary and you don't get out much, what happens if you go for a walk 2 days in a row and just up and down the road or something like that? How does the body respond to that? And if the body responds negatively to that again, you know you've got a problem, right? And that's pretty much what happened with me. I was too fat. I was overweight. I went on some hikes when I went on holiday and I couldn't do it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. So I made a course correction. And in the same token, when I was injured and really badly hurt, and then I found functional patterns, I was like, doing too much. I was training loads. I was pushing my body every week. I was doing a fitness test every week. I was really hammering myself and I put a lot of pressure on myself. So from two extremes, kind of meeting in the middle, this is why I'm making this video. Question, like I say, comes up a lot with people that I work with. And how often should I train? Well, if you think about the hierarchy of needs that's coming up on screen right now, you'll understand that functional patterns orient themselves around correcting your mechanics first, nourishing your body with sunlight, with good food, with water, and sleep, right? So that's nourishment. That's something that can help you feel better each day. And then on a weekly basis, to train your body and to learn new skills. So how I interpret this is that, well, if you spend 20 to 30 minutes a day working on corrective exercises and mechanical stuff to see how your body functions, that's going to improve your posture. It's going to improve the way that your body orients itself. If you improve your fascia and your posture and your biomechanics with corrective exercises, you're taking some strain off your nervous system. And if your nerves integrate into the fascia of your body, right? So you can't just think of it as like, oh, well, my muscles and my nerves are separate entities. They work together within fascia. So if your fascia is dysfunctional and you're not moving and you're stuck in certain positions all the time, then it's important to correct yourself on a daily basis. On from there, you can then use a weekly schedule, maybe 1 to 2 times a week, of pushing your body and seeing how has the corrective stuff that you've done improved what your dynamic functions are. So maybe you test out a different kind of workout. Maybe you're using a dumbbell in a certain way. Maybe you layer together 3 or 4 exercises to push your body. And then on a monthly basis, the whole point is get out into nature. Get into nature for a few days if you can. The reason that's important is because there's so much anxiety and stress that exists in the world. This rise of depression and anxiety that we're seeing at the moment, it's only because we're so stimulated all the time. We're completely overstimulated. In fact, back in I think it was 2014, I made a series of videos about this on my other channel, which doesn't exist anymore, about using your phone and not having your phone for 7 days. Man, that made me anxious. Oh my gosh. And that was 2014. Can you imagine if it took people's phones away today? They'd lose their minds, right? So we live in an anxious world. And the reason I'm sharing this today and the reason I think this hierarchy is important is because if you look at what a life-size model is predicted to look like of an office worker in 20 years, you can actually see we're actually not that far away from that. I see this quite a lot in society. If you go out into the streets, particularly in neighborhoods where maybe it's less affluent, you'll see a lot of people walking around looking a little bit like this. And this was another one that I came across on Instagram. It was this lady that they've predicted her to look like. So this is what humans will look like from an AI prediction working from home. So if we go down to this one here, I mean, look, let's face it, this protrusion in the neck is just insane. At the same time, I see a lot of people that look like this every day. So I don't think we're that far off this in terms of our future, because our future is kind of here. The point of this really is to kind of share like a little bit of context around, look, don't be at one end of the spectrum, don't be at the other end of the spectrum. Work on being in the middle of the spectrum, and that way you learn to be a more functional person. But also, if you take all the stress and anxiety out of your life, like imagine how much better you'll feel, right? How I do this and how I manage my training is I work on my corrective exercises on a daily basis. Maybe I'll do 5 minutes a day. Maybe I'll do 10, 20 minutes a day. Maybe I'll just stick with one exercise and I'll just see how that works. And then I like to go for a walk, or I like to train in some way, shape, or form. Maybe I'll try running. But for the most part, my exertion levels have been brought right down on a daily basis. And then on a weekly basis, I try and increase my exertion, and I sort of monitor how my body responds to that. Don't think that there's like, you buy the functional patterns courses or you start working with a functional patterns practitioner and you should just go hell for leather on doing functional patterns 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can do functional patterns and you can think functionally and you can think about concepts functionally, but you don't actually, like, even as I sit here, I'm thinking about things on a level where I'm like, oh, okay, what's my stomach doing in this context? Like, how's my posture in this context? That's training. Believe it or not, you're having to work muscles even when you're sat down. So when you start to understand those concepts, you realize that actually you can correct your mechanics by just sitting in a chair. And that sounds completely bonkers, but it's true. So I like to try and integrate these things into your life, integrate functional patterns into your life if that's what you're looking to do. Don't think of it as an isolated incident that needs to happen every single day for a particular time, for a particular hour. I know structure is good, and I know I just said organization is important, but actually when you organize your life based around a more primal basis, eating good food, nourishing your body, getting good sleep, being out in the sunlight, exercising when you need to, that's when the magic happens. That's when you start to feel amazing. And I have to say, this hierarchy works wonders when you start to nail it. So hopefully that's been helpful for you today. I look forward to catching you next week in another video. I think I've got more info on tech, how to use technology to monitor your health coming up. So that's going to be cool. Also about how the Apple Watch helped to save my life at the beginning of the year, which is quite an interesting one. So stay tuned for that. I look forward to seeing you very soon, and please share some comments down below. What did you find helpful with this? Pop a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll catch you in the next one. Stay strong and keep moving.